Hey guys, it's Natalia, and today we're doing our 2023 recap and our 2024 goals. I'm so excited about this. I think it's my third or fourth year doing this. I like to look back at my video I made at the beginning of the year, look at all the goals that I set, see which ones came true, and then kind of visualize what my next year is gonna be like. I love doing vision boards. I love doing resolutions, not in a sense of doing it blindly and just like putting too much on my plate without actually working for it, but more in a way of like, okay, this is where I would like to go with my life. What are the steps I can take to reach that? And then setting realistic goals for myself that still push me but aren't like crazy unrealistic. But I feel like every year I do have at least one kind of crazy unrealistic goal, but for whatever reason the past 2 years they've kind of come true. So I'm gonna keep being a little delusional about things, but let's watch last year's video. I'm really excited. 2023 was my first year living in LA the entire year. Last year in 2022 is when I moved to LA halfway through the year. So this was my first year fully in LA, surrounded by all the opportunities, meeting all the people. Like, it was an incredible year. So many ups and downs, so many things happened, but I met some of my best friends this year. I feel like I've really secured myself here in LA. I feel very at home. I feel like I belong. Like, I just feel good about being here. I feel very settled. I feel like I've stepped out of my comfort zone a lot this year and just like put myself out there a lot more than I ever have, just like attending events and networking and doing all the things. So it's been a really fruitful year, and I'm really excited to look back at what I said at the beginning of the year I wanted it to look like, because I know at the end of 2022 I was honestly pretty depressed. I was not doing very well. I was in the trenches, so I really had high hopes for 2023 to kind of like lift me out of that, and I think in a lot of ways it did. So I'm excited to kind of see where I was at then and kind of compare to where I am now, and also share with you guys the things that I've like learned this year that I kind of want to bring into next year, and all the goals that I have for next year as well. Let's watch it.
So all that being said, I want to go into my goals for this year. I don't really have numerical goals for any of my like social media because I just like don't care that much right now. So I'm probably just gonna transfer all the ones that I didn't necessarily reach this year to next year. So like 200K on YouTube would be really cool, maybe like 250K. Getting the podcast back up is one of my biggest goals for this upcoming year. I'm starting to film in a studio this upcoming week. So I'm hoping to just have it more professional and more like, I don't know, just better with it. So I am really hoping that I do end up growing, obviously, the YouTube channel for it, the Instagram and the TikTok. I would love for like the YouTube channel to hit like 10K or something. Instagram could be like at a 5 to 10K. TikTok could also kind of be in between there. That's a big goal of mine.
Okay, so we're not starting off strong. So at the beginning of the year, I did tell myself like I don't really care for numerical goals anymore with my socials, and honestly I still stand true to that. I feel like I have really switched over to kind of just cultivating the community that I do have and kind of building that. And like, yeah, of course I want to grow my socials, but I'm also at a place where I'm very content with where I'm at, and like I don't need this exponential growth. But I did say I wanted to grow the podcast because I did record in the studio at the beginning of the year, but I underestimated how many custom orders I had actually taken on for the Eras tour at the beginning of the year, and therefore I ended up with no time to edit all the podcasts and the YouTube videos and do all these custom orders. Like, I really underestimated how much work I had put on myself. But I did love doing the podcast in the studio. The first few that I did at the beginning of the year, they were truly some of my favorites, and I want to bring it back so badly, but I know I'm not in a place right now to be able to do that. It is something I genuinely do want to keep doing at some point in the future. I just feel like I need to find stability with my socials and my store first, and once I have that, then I can kind of dive into the podcast. But I feel like doing all of it was just a little bit too much for me to take on, and I think this year something I've learned is to kind of step back and be realistic about like how much I can do and not spread myself too thin over too many things, because sometimes I think doing too many things, not doing them well enough, is not as good as maybe doing less things but doing them better. So that's something that I'm still learning. But yeah, the podcast ended up not really being a thing by the end of the year. I think I did it January, February, and that was about it because I just had no time. It was a very, very busy year, but I'm okay with that. I did so many other things, so it's not like a pressing matter, but I do hope that at some point I can bring it back because I really do love it.
I would also love to do New York Fashion Week again like I did this past year, but I think I'm gonna maybe do it solo / maybe with a collaborator, but I really do want to continue that. That's something really, really big.
So I did end up doing New York Fashion Week again this year, and I did actually do it with a collaborator. I didn't do it solo, but I did do it with a collaborator. I ended up doing it with Sustainable Baddie, which was lovely. So that's something that I just think is gonna become an annual thing. I love doing New York Fashion Week, and I think that now that I've done it a couple of years, the people that came to the first one came to the second one too, and I think that it's starting to become kind of a community of people that show up every year, and I really just want to build on that because my cup gets so full every time I do an event. I love talking to people. I love when people come up to me and tell me that they've, you know, watched my content, or I've inspired them to also start creating, or they also have a slow fashion brand, or like they've learned about sustainable fashion because of me or because of my friends that I'm collaborating with, or whatever the case may be. I think it's so cool to see people come together. I love, love, love chatting with everyone and just meeting so many talented people and creatives, and it just really fills me up and reminds me that I'm not alone in this kind of battle towards making the fashion industry a better place and just the world a better place. So I do think that's something I'm gonna keep doing this year. I don't particularly know how I want to go about it because the first year I did New York Fashion Week, I did a runway, and the second year, this year, I did an exhibition, and I did a poll on Instagram, and actually a lot of people preferred the exhibition just because it was more social and like you were able to talk to people a lot easier than just like sitting down at a runway. But I don't know what I'm gonna do this year for it exactly. I don't have thoughts, but I think we're definitely gonna do it again in the fall. I don't think I'm ever gonna do spring. I think it's only gonna be fall just because it seems too back to back for me. Definitely expect to see me at New York Fashion Week again this year.
I want to start hosting more things in LA because I did a lot more events this past year and I really enjoyed it, but I feel like I need to give more to the community that I have here and start like kind of nourishing that. So I really want to do more events here, whether that's like clothing swaps or pop-ups or just anything to get the sustainable fashion community together. I definitely want to do that.
So I also had a goal to bring more events to LA, and I actually did. I had a clothing swap with my friends at the beginning of the year in February, which was so successful. And then I also ended up doing a fashion show and panel for Earth Month in April, which was so much fun. And I feel like I also just attended a lot of events in LA, which was really nice, but it is something I definitely want to keep at because it really is so fulfilling to do events, especially in LA. I met so many people that are now like closer friends of mine that I've hung out with again, and it's just so fruitful. Like I love the community we have here.
Big goal for this year / my most like quote unquote unrealistic one would be to meet Taylor Swift. And hear me out, it's very common for people to go all out at her concerts to get seen and blah blah, and obviously now with social media it's a lot easier to get seen, and I'm just hoping that at least one of the however many custom orders I'm making gets seen by her and her team, and either the person that I made it for gets to meet her or I get to meet her. But I feel like my designs and her will come face to face this year, and that would just be such a dream. So that is my unrealistic but actually maybe realistic goal for this year.
I love that I said this in last year's video because I always put one kind of crazy thing. The year prior was like, oh, I really want to move to LA, and truthfully, like I had no plan, no idea of how I would make it work, and I ended up making it work 5 months into the year, which was crazy. And this year I was like, I really either want to meet Taylor Swift, because I wasn't sure at that point if she was going to be doing like meet and greets after her show or not, because we had no idea what the show was going to be. Obviously she didn't do any because she has a 3-hour-long show, but I knew that because that might have not been a possibility, I was like, you know what, I just feel like she is going to somehow like see me or like see my designs, because at that point I did have a bunch of Eras Tour outfits lined up. So I just had this feeling. I was like, I know it's gonna happen, and it did. She actually did like one of my TikToks of one of the outfits I made, and it was the coolest thing ever. I also ended up getting an article in the Wall Street Journal about the Eras Tour outfits, and I was also in the local news in LA for the Eras Tour outfits. So I definitely got like quite a lot of press around it, and she actually physically like actually liked one of my TikToks. So she did actually come face to face with not just my designs but also me in my designs of her outfits, which was truly one of the coolest things ever to happen this year. And I just wish I could have told myself that at the beginning of the year, that things like were gonna come together, and not to get like emotional about it, but I really was in a very not great place at the beginning of the year, and I just really needed a fresh start. And in a lot of ways, Taylor and the Eras Tour just like brought me back to life, because it brought my business back to life. I felt like I had purpose again. It allowed me to do custom orders, which is what I've been wanting to do the most of, but I had been stuck in like just collections and stuff. So it opened me up to like a new clientele of people and kind of a new world of fashion design. I got so much press about it. It was just such a fulfilling experience, and I'm just so grateful to Taylor, even though she doesn't know how much she's affected my life personally. Like I'm so grateful that I had that this year. That really meant so much, and I think just to have her actually see me and see my work felt very full circle and just like you're doing the right thing. So it's just something I hold very near and dear to my heart, and I'm so grateful to myself for being so delusional about things like that and just, you know, saying it out in the open and not being afraid to put it out into the world, because even if it didn't happen, it's not that deep. Like I know one day it might happen, and I don't think there's anything wrong with dreaming, you know.
I've really not cared too much about the numbers. Like I said, financially I would love to like hit 6 figures at some point. I don't know if that will be this year or not, but maybe it will be. That's my next like biggest financial goal. I feel like I'm at a point where I feel pretty stable financially as opposed to a couple other years, so I feel pretty decent there.
I also said I wanted more financial stability this year, which I do think I had for most of the year. Just having consistent Eras Tour orders, and I had some deals at the beginning of the year. I just felt like I did a lot, and I did find consistent work throughout the year. Obviously, it always comes in waves when you're an entrepreneur, so it's not like, oh, I found consistency, it's gonna be like that forever. But I think I am very proud of myself for having really sought out work this year and making it work, especially it being my first year living in LA fully by myself, fully independent. Like I managed to pay to live here by myself, which I think is a huge feat. So I am very proud of myself for that, and that's something I definitely want to extend into the next year and obviously the next years to come.
Is that taking time off has really helped my creativity and keeping me like in check. So I want to continue to like take weekends off like a normal person and find ways to rest and reset, and also just like spend time with the people around me and enjoy the friendships that I have, because the 2 years prior, 2020 and 2021, I spent completely by myself pretty much, with like no friends, not taking weekends off, just working, being by myself literally. And this year has just been so refreshing to be around people and be able to like breathe and enjoy life and be a normal like 20-something year old. So that's something I definitely want to take into this upcoming year.
I will say I definitely took this and ran with it. I worked really hard this year. I had so much work, but I think I also learned how to just enjoy life and enjoy the people around me and really nurture the friendships I have. I have made so many friends this year. I met Noemi this year, which feels crazy to say because I feel like I've known her a lifetime, but I met her officially in person in April, like less than a year ago. And she's become one of my truly closest friends that I have, and I ended up spending 3 weeks with her from New York to London to Paris, which was also just so crazy, and getting to grow closer with her has been really great. I feel like I also got super close to Liran this year. We weren't particularly super close last year. We had truly just met last year and hung out a few times, but this year I feel like we really solidified our friendship so much. We hung out so much. I see her truly almost every other day, and that's been super fruitful. I feel like I've made it my mission to really seek out my friends and like actually get coffees with them and meet people, and if I go to events, like make at least one friend, and I feel very fulfilled with that aspect of my life. I think I've really been open to the idea of bringing new people into my life and nurturing those friendships, and I love the group of people I have around me right now. I feel very supported, very well loved, and I think that sometimes can be hard to find. And I know that that's a huge cliche in LA, is that you can never find the right people. Everybody's like selfish and doing things for themselves, and I have just found that to be so untrue, and all the people around me are so wonderful and so helpful and so supportive. I just feel very grateful for that, but I also think that I have that because I give that effort right back, and I've put in the effort to have good friendships and be present and truly just put in the work, because at the end of the day, I think friendships are also relationships, and in the same way that you put effort into a romantic relationship, you need to put effort into your friendships to make sure that you're keeping them healthy and you're growing them and you're being a good friend. And I just find that very important in my life right now, especially being in my 20s, being single. I think that the best thing I can do for myself is just spend time with my friends and just have very solid friend groups and people around me to just keep me going. So I feel very fulfilled in that aspect of my life. And I also wish I could have told myself that at the beginning of the year, that I would be there, because I didn't feel like I was super close with anybody in LA yet. I had made friends, but I wasn't like besties with anybody yet. And I think this year I really found that, which really changes everything. So it's been wonderful.
overall, I just feel like this year is gonna be like just like a year of all the things that I've been building up to finally coming to life, because I feel like 2020, 21, and 2022 have all been years of just like constant change and just like developing into what I will be or who I will be or whatever. And I feel like now I'm at a point where all those things have finally happened and all those steps were taken, and now it's just like, okay, now let's let it actually thrive and do what it's supposed to do. So now it's like I'm in LA now, I have friends, I like have done, you know, events I feel good about where I'm at. I finally have work lined up for the entire year pretty much without the year having even started, which is not a normal for me. So I just feel like this year is going to be very like fruitful.
I could not have said it better myself. This year truly was so fruitful. I think the past few years I really have been planting the seeds for like where I want to be in life, and this year I kind of was able to really let those grow. Like I said, I really nurtured the friendships. I feel like my career kind of took a lot of turns in the best way possible. Like I did custom orders. I got to go to Berlin to speak in a conference. I did multiple events. I've collaborated with really cool brands. Like I really did a lot this year for my career that I had never done before. I traveled a lot this year, which is something I really wanted to do as well. And I was able to do that for work and with my friends and with like the people that I love and want to be with and want to spend time with, which is also really cool. Like I went to Costa Rica with my mom, and that was a brand trip, which was really, really cool. I got to go to Berlin to speak at a conference, which was really cool. It was my first like solo trip as well, which also was really fruitful. I ended up doing New York Fashion Week, London Fashion Week, and Paris Fashion Week back to back with Noemi and then Lexi for the second half. And overall, it was just like such a good year. That being said, obviously it wasn't this perfect year either. There was a lot of learning this year, I think, on balancing life and work and finances and figuring out like what's a good investment versus maybe what's not a good investment into my business, because at the end of the day my travels and everything I do, events and everything, is for my business. I'm not just like out doing whatever. So just kind of balancing what was a good investment, what wasn't, kind of what I got out of everything that I invested in, and kind of learning that I think is something big for this year that I want to bring into next year, and kind of, okay, like, are events worth it? How should I go about them? What's the best way to get something out of them that makes it still worth it? Things like that I think are really important. So that was a huge lesson for this year. But that being said, let's go into next year's goals. For 2024, I don't have as many numerical goals as I think I used to have in the past. Like I don't really care to like hit 200K on YouTube or hit, you know, 50K on Instagram, whatever it is. Sure, I want to have those goals, but it's not particularly what I'm working towards. So if I hit that, great. If I don't, great. I don't care too much about that right now. I think career-wise, what I really care about is figuring out kind of where I want NTA, like my brand, to go, because this past year it really did take a turn with doing custom orders and not really doing collections, versus the years past has been very collection heavy and less custom orders. So I think I need to, one, figure out what I actually want, because I've always said I wanted to do custom orders more than anything else, but this year I actually did it and it was hard. Like very hard. So I need to kind of learn a balance on that, and also I need to learn how to properly price everything, which was a huge learning lesson for me this year too. I didn't realize how expensive some materials would be for the Eras tour, and so I really undercharged for some of these pieces and, you know, ended up kind of breaking even barely. So that was a huge lesson learned that I want to bring into next year, is kind of doing things maybe a little more like slowly, take my time to actually think about it before just jumping into things, because I'm very much like a yes, I'll do anything. Like I will say yes to anything and just jump into it. But I think sometimes I need to like take a little step back, think about it, and then jump into it. So I need to kind of learn what I want to do with my brand. Do I want to do more collections? Do I want to do custom work? Or am I going to take a different turn? I did patterns this year, which was new. Like, do I want to go down that route? I don't know. I think I want to do a little bit of everything, but I hope by the end of next year when I'm filming this again, I have a more kind of secure thought process for what I want my brand to be, because it feels like a Mod Podge right now, which is fine. It's worked, but I feel like I want to have a more solid path. I think I have more life goals than I do career goals for the next couple of years, because my first few years of doing this was very career heavy, which is great, but I think I've learned that life is also very important. So towards the end of this year, I've become a very big reader. So I think that's something I want to bring into next year too, because I have found it to be so beneficial to just my mental sanity. So I want to read at least 12 books next year, you know, one per month. I'll probably read more than that, but I feel like that's a good baseline. I don't want want to overshoot, but I would love to read 12 books next year. I would also just love to continue being active. This past year, I did a lot of different workout classes. I started the year doing a lot more Pilates, ended the year doing a whole lot more of hot yoga. I've done a lot of random in between, like I did a lot of SoulCycle and boxing this year as well, and like hiking, and that's something I want to continue into next year. I don't love to put like exercise goals into my year or any sort of kind of strict exercise goal at that, but I do think it's very important for me to stay active in some sort of way, and lately it's been hot yoga for me. I don't know if that's going to continue to next year or not, or like what I'll choose, but making sure I take care of myself physically and give myself the time of day to take care of that need, I think is very important. So that's something I definitely want to continue to next year. I also want to continue traveling next year. I traveled so much this year and it brought me so much joy, and I want to do it again. I think I'll probably travel less in 2024 than I did in 2023, but I hope that I get to do like New York Fashion Week again. I would love to do London and Paris again afterwards. Like I would love for that to be like a thing, especially with Noemi. I love her so much and she's such a good close friend of mine, but obviously we live in two very separate parts of the world, so it's hard for us to meet up, but I think that's a great excuse for both of us because it's a work thing, so we can kind of align it better. So I really hope that becomes a thing because I would love that, and we had the best time, and I just know that we would continue having the best time if we keep doing that. I think also for this upcoming year, I would really like to dive into being a creator a little bit more. Towards the end of this year, I feel like I dipped into it more than I used to, just with going to like Paris Fashion Week and all of that, and being with Noemi and Lexi through that. I really tapped into content creating for myself, not necessarily for my brand, which was new, and I really enjoyed it, so I would love to do that. I feel like towards the end of this year, I've also put a lot of effort into my YouTube channel and vlogs and just kind of actually loving it again, because I think in 2023, towards the beginning of it, when I was really overwhelmed with custom orders, I kind of grew out of love with the vlogs because it just felt like I have so much work, I like have to get this out. Like I wasn't putting my 100% into it, and that's something I want to bring back, and I feel like I have done that these past few months, so I want to bring that energy back into 2024 and just like love my YouTube channel again, because I really do enjoy just making videos. That's why I started my YouTube channel in the first place, and that's why I keep doing it. So I want to make sure I love it again and just kind of keep that momentum going. Something else I really want to do for 2024 is collaborations. I spent this past year networking a lot and meeting a lot of people, and I think there's so much power in collaboration and so much power in numbers and doing things with other people, and because I have such a great network of people around me, I would love to kind of use that to both of our advantages and kind of find ways to collaborate and help each other out. I think that's something I want to tap into a little bit more this year. I'm not sure exactly what that looks like, but I do want to do it in some sort of way. I said I didn't have that many career goals, and then I feel like I'm throwing out career goals now, but I do want to continue doing events this year. I said that at the beginning of this video, but I do really love doing events, and I hope to do more this year just because, again, it's a great way to meet people and network and just remind yourself that you're not alone in this community, especially when you do everything online. It's important to be reminded that like, hey, there's people on the other side of the screen and like we can all work together. I'm trying to think if I have any kind of like outlandish goal for the year, but I really don't. I feel very secure in where I'm at with life, and sure, there's still things I would love to do more of. Like I would love to have my pieces on like red carpets and stuff, which I had a few this year because I did work with a PR company at the beginning of the year, and that was really cool. So I think that's something I would still like to do, but for whatever reason, I don't feel like those goals are exactly for next year. Like I think I really do want to focus on just like custom work in some way, shape, or form, and if that ends up on a red carpet, that would be really cool. But I think I just really enjoy the custom process, and I want to find myself as a designer again, because I did kind of lose that a little bit this year when I was making a bunch of recreations of Taylor's outfits. I felt very lost in my own style as a designer, and that's something I want to tap into more this year. Overall, I think for this upcoming year, I just want to kind of bring all the good things of 2023 and delve into them more in 2024, and just continue to balance work and life and meeting people and just enjoying my life as a 20-something-year-old. Next year, I turn 25, which I have a feeling will give me a quarter life crisis because I've already kind of been in one. But also, weirdly enough, turning 24 this year, I think was the first year I felt my age, because I turned 21 during the pandemic in 2020, and every year after that, I just haven't felt older. Like I felt very stuck at 20, And I feel this year is the first year that I'm like, okay, you know what, it makes sense that I'm 24. Like, I am 24. Like, I am living by myself. I'm working. I have friends that are also working. Like, I'm living as an adult, but also still being very like young and having fun and going out and doing all the things. So it feels like this perfect balance of being in my mid-20s. It's the first year I have felt like, okay, I am this age, and it makes sense. But it's also crazy to say that because I started my business when I was 20, so in a lot of ways I still feel like I'm very young to the business world. But it's crazy that we're like almost 4 years out from that, and I'm not as new to it as I once was. And you know, time goes by fast, I feel like. But it's the first time I really feel that for myself. So I'm curious to know what the rest of 24 will bring next year and what 25 is gonna be. But for now, I really just hope that it's a happy year. I hope it's a fruitful year. I hope that I find peace within everything I do. And I hope that it's just a happy year. 2023 was very happy. It was full of so much joy, so much love, and I just hope that that's what 2024 brings. So we will see next year. Let me know what's on your vision board, manifest with me. Any delusional thoughts you have, put them down there because you never know. It might actually happen. That being said, thank you guys so much for supporting me this year. I'm so grateful. I honestly couldn't do half the things I do without the support of everyone who watches me and just follows my journey. So I'm very, very grateful for that. And I hope that whatever you have for yourself and your manifestations and your vision board comes true because you deserve it. That being said, that is it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you next year. Bye!